Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time that you're watching this video. My name is Mr. Grigan, a teacher of history and government, and today I'm going to introduce you through World Wars, as you can see on the board. This is a Form 4 topic 1. So I'll give you an overview of World Wars, and then I will discuss into details the First World War, that is World War I. Now, World Wars generally is a war that was fought in the entire world, but it was sparked in Europe. So it is a war that was started in Europe, but it affected the entire world. So the war was sparked off by political, military, and economic developments in Europe between the last quarter of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century. So this war generally profoundly affected Europe and the rest of the world. Of course, millions of people were killed and several were maimed. The economy of the warring nations were destroyed to the extent that the political and the economic basis was shifted from Western Europe to the Western world. That is to the West, that is in USA and in USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republican, USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republican, the current Russia. So the shift in the economic and the political power brought an era that was full of suspicions because of the power struggle between the two blocks, the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc. When I talk about the Western Bloc, I'm talking about United States of America. And when I talk about the Eastern Front, I'm talking about Russia, the former USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republican. Now, this state of affair became known as Cold War, the power struggle between Russia and the United States of America. That actually, it almost resulted into another war, and we are still experiencing Cold War until today. So I'm going to take you through World War I, the First World War. This is our topic, our discussion today. And you can take your book, take your pen so that you follow with me. I prefer you use Evolving World History and Government. It is detailed and we are going to go together in our discussion. So I wish you all the best as you concentrate. World War I. World War I. So World War I was fought between 1914 up to 1918. This is the period. So if you do simple arithmetics, it lasted for 5 years, 4 to 5 years. So it took a period of 5 years, and during this period, we had these countries in Western Europe. We had Britain, we had France, we had Russia and Germany. So these countries were in Western Europe. Western Europe. These were the most powerful nations in the world before World War I started. What led to the rise of World War I? Or what caused the eruption of World War I? I will rub. So the causes of World War I. Causes of World War I. Causes of World War I can be classified into two. We can categorize them into two. We have the short-term causes, short-term and long-term, causes. Now, I will start with the long-term causes. I will start with the long-term causes and I will list them. The long-term causes of World War I. There are several long-term causes of World War I. So we have economic rivalry, We also have colonial rivalry, We have the Moroccan Crisis, or crisis. We have the Italo-Turkish colonial dispute, We also have the arms race. I'll write here the arms race. So after the arms race, also we'll discuss the need for revenge, and then we also have nationalism, and finally we will discuss the Balkans War. Well, these are the long-term causes of World War I. I will begin with the need for revenge, because this is where we are going to develop or establish the foundation of how World War I was developed. So the need for revenge. I'm taking you back to 1870. The 1870, a period of 1870 and 1871, there was a rivalry between Germany and France. This became the famous war known as the Franco-Prussian War. Of course, Prussia represents Germany, and then Franco from the word France. So the Franco-Prussian War was fought in 1870 and 1871 between Germany and France. And as the war developed and advanced, Prussia emerged the victors. France lost to Germany, and Germany annexed or took or grabbed two of their territories. That was Alsace and Lorraine. These two territories were very important to the France, and when they lost their territories, they wanted their territories back. And this made France to be bitter, because they wanted to avenge and take back what they lost to Germany. This sparkled the development of World War I. Then, after that, we're going to look at the economic rivalry, a second long-term cause of World War I. I hope you've taken the notes. I hope you're following. So the second cause of World War I, we have economic rivalry. I will explain. I don't need to write again because I've already written it. Well, in the 19th century, Europe had developed and had become industrialized. So the industrial Europe started competing for raw materials so that their industries can continue manufacturing. In the process, they started competing for raw materials and also competing for markets. So due to the Industrial Revolution in Europe, the machines produced goods in mass and therefore required constant flow of raw materials. This fueled tariff wars and competition between them for foreign markets. So for instance, there was competition between Germany and Britain, and this further made the suspicion to develop and to become so intense in Europe. And that is a long-term cause, because it gradually developed as these nations were fighting over raw materials and fighting over the markets for their finished industrial goods. Secondly, third, we had the colonial rivalry. So powerful European nations started looking for colonies as a source of raw materials. You can use the same explanation you used to explain economic rivalry to explain colonial rivalry. So these powerful European nations that we stated before, the likes of Britain, Germany, France, Spain, Russia, you can leave Russia out, started moving outside their territories looking for colony to supplement raw materials that will be fed in their industries. So this one also resulted into antagonism between these European powers because they were clashing over sphere of influence. You find a European nation vis-a-vis another European nation, they meet at a particular territory in which they have interest in. That is what we call sphere of influence. So when two powers are conflicting over a given territory, then we call it a sphere, war on sphere of influence. That also brought a lot of tension between the European powers. And if you want to know, or if you want to confirm it, I will explain the Moroccan crisis, or the crisis. It depends from the tree that you were cut from. You will pronounce it depending also on your English teacher. So the Moroccan crisis. The Moroccan crisis was fought into two: the first Moroccan crisis and the second Moroccan crisis. I have a special interest because it is going to help you understand how colonial rivalry was developed or advanced between the European nations. So the Moroccan crisis. So Moroccan crisis. So the first Moroccan crisis was between 1905 and 1906. I'll begin with the first Moroccan crisis. Now, this crisis was triggered by the Anglo-French agreement of 1904. Anglo-French agreement of 1904. What was the term of Anglo-French agreement of 1904? Anglo is English, so the British-French agreement. Agreement can be a covenant, can be a pact, can be a treaty. It is an understanding. So Anglo-French agreement of 1904 stated that the French were to recognize the British occupation of Egypt. At the same time, the British were to recognize the French occupation of Morocco. So the scores between French and British was settled because the French accepted British to take Egypt and British accepted French to take Morocco. The Germans were not happy with the agreement. The Anglo-French agreement of 1904, they were not happy. Why? Because they had a special interest in Morocco. So the German Kaiser, Kaiser is a ruler. Just like along the coastal strips, we have sultans. So Kaiser is a German ruler. So the German Kaiser did not receive this well because of the special interest he had in Morocco. Students, Kaiser visited Tangier. Tangier was a Moroccan coastal town and incited the sultans against the French. So Tangier. So the first place that German Kaiser visited was Tangier. And when he went there, he went to incite the sultans. A sultan is a ruler, just like a Kaiser. So he went to incite them against the French. So he even assured the Morocco people in Tangier that in case they will need their support, then Germany will be there for them to fight for their independence. Now, the German Kaiser went ahead and demanded for a conference so that they can determine the fate of Morocco. And in 1906, the quest for Kaiser was taken into consideration, and a conference was held in Spain, in Algeciras, the famous Algeciras Conference of 1906 January. Now, in the conference, some recommendations were brought, or they reached at some recommendations. Unfortunately, Germans were not satisfied. In fact, they left the conference bitter than they went. So what were the recommendations of the Algeciras Conference of 1906 January? Algeciras Conference of 1906. This was held in Spain. So the recommendations were two. The first recommendation was, So the first recommendation was France and Spain. France and Spain to police Morocco. And then the second recommendation was that Germany to control the Moroccan State Bank. Germany to control the Moroccan State Bank. Germans were not satisfied with the decisions that were made in the conference, and this resulted into the second Moroccan crisis that took place in 1911. So the second Moroccan crisis, let us discuss that. The second Moroccan crisis. The second Moroccan crisis, which was in 1911. Basically, what happened? Somebody can ask a question. What happened during that resulted into the second Moroccan crisis in 1911? So what happened was that after the French were given the go-ahead, the powers to police Morocco, they entrenched themselves further into Morocco. And the sultans who were pro-German, the German sympathizer sultans or rulers, were replaced with sultans who sympathized with the French in 1908. That is after the Algeciras Conference. What happened? An uprising arose in 1911, and the uprising was against French loyal sultans. So it means that the people of Morocco who had been incited by the Germans started fighting back. So that, it's like they never wanted the French. So an uprising arose in 1911 against the French loyal leaders or sultans, making the Germans to make a move because they wanted that. They promised the Moroccans independence. So they made a move, and the French responded. After the Germans made a move, the French responded. So they responded to the uprising and sent their forces to Fez. They sent their forces to Fez. Fez is the capital city of Morocco. The German Kaiser also reacted and he sent gunboats to Panther. So he sent gunboats to Panther. This was a port to Panther. He sent a gun. Panther was the name of the gunboat. So he sent Panther, which was the gunboat, to the port of Agadir. The port of Agadir. So there's a port in Morocco known as Agadir Port, resulting into the famous Agadir Crisis, because there were casualties during the reaction. Well, the conflict was to be resolved. And how was it resolved? So the conflict was resolved when the French promised to give part of their territory in Congo, the French Congo, to give part of their territory, of their French territory in Congo, in exchange of the conflicted, or in exchange of the disputed region, that is Morocco. And that is how the Moroccan crisis was resolved. The Moroccan crisis. The first Moroccan crisis, 1905-1906, and the second Moroccan crisis. So that is what happened during the Moroccan crisis, and it was resolved by the Germans being offered a portion of the French Congo so that they can leave Morocco for the French. Now that further pulled the strings between European powers, because even if Germans were offered part of the French Congo, they wanted Morocco. So the conflict was partly or partially resolved. I can pose some questions to you students on the Moroccan crisis. You will meet in a paper. An examiner will ask you, in what ways was the Moroccan crisis resolved? Secondly, can you outline the results or the proposals or the recommendations of the Algeciras conference? On the same note, you can be asked, in which country was a conference held to resolve the Moroccan crisis? And finally, what was the term of the Anglo-French Agreement of 1904? Those questions, some of the possible questions you can get from the Moroccan crisis. Well, let us proceed. The Italo-Turkish colonial dispute. The Italo-Turkish colonial dispute. The same year, 1911, Italy declared war on Turkey. They took Tripoli and also they took Cyrenaica, implying that she was in possession of the present-day Libya. She here means Italy. So Italy implied that they were in possession of the present-day Libya. So they had rights. Taking you back to colonial rivalry. So these angered Germans because Germans were great supporters of Turkey. You can see how the war is developing. The Italians attacking the Turks, taking their territories. Their supporters, ardent supporters, Germans, get angry. And so they became enemies of Italy. War is developing. We are talking about the long-term causes of World War I. So the arms race, because of the suspicions that now has developed and created fear among the European nations, they started manufacturing weapons in ready for a war, in ready to strike. So they made weapons, their arms race. They started making weapons. So the colonial dispute motivated the European powers to create powerful navy and army in preparation for a war. In 1906, the British made dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts. Let me write for you the spelling. They made dreadnoughts. So in 1906, the British made dreadnoughts, which was the first of a class of big battleships. Germans were not left behind, they reacted back. So in 1909 to 1912, Germans made almost the same type of dreadnoughts, but they made 9 of them. So they made 9 dreadnoughts, and then British reacted back by making double. So they made 18 similar dreadnoughts. You can see how the race in making weapons was advancing among the European nations. Mind you, British and Germans were parallel. So France and Russia also expanded their army by lengthening the conscription services and calling up trained reservists to train their army that they were recruiting. And so these are some of the ways through which war was developed in World War I developed. You can see how it is advancing step by step. And so after making weapons, or as they were making weapons, some of the European nations started identifying their allies. They started realizing that they can come up with friendship such that in times of war, they can seek help. And this is taking us to another long-term course known as System of Alliance. Alliance system. They started coming up with alliances so that in case of the war, they will get backup. So the alliance system. Alliance system. Now, in 1879, Germany formed a dual alliance. So we had a dual alliance between Germany and Hungary. Call it Austria-Hungary. That is in 1879. The first alliance that was formed in preparation for the the First World War. That is in 1879. And then in the reason as to why this alliance was formed was that the agreement meant that each country, that is both Germany and Hungary, they were to assist one another in case one of them was attacked by Russia. So the dual alliance between Germany and Austria-Hungary was to defend themselves in case one of them was attacked by Russia, the first alliance to be formed. Then in 1882, Italy joined the alliance. Italy joined dual alliance, forming a triple alliance. So triple alliance was formed. Triple alliance was formed in 1882 when Italy joined the dual alliance between Germany and Austria-Hungary. So we add in the triple alliance, we add Germany, we add Italy, and then we add Austria-Hungary. They formed the triple alliance. And the reason as to why, or the objective of forming the triple alliance, was that the three were to assist each other in case one of them or either of them was attacked by the French. So this alliance was anti-French alliance, triple alliance. Well, let's proceed with the alliance system, taking you step by step chronologically so that you understand how this took place. Well, in 1892, an alliance was formed, a dual alliance between France and Russia. We call it the Franco-Russian alliance. The Franco-Russian alliance, the dual alliance between France and Russia. And why was it formed? So the dual alliance, the duos were to assist each other in case either of them was attacked by Germany. The dual alliance of 1892 between France and Russia, the Franco-Russian alliance, was anti-Germany alliance. Good. In 1901, the dual alliance, or the dual, in 1901, the dual entente, entente means understanding. It just means understanding, so don't be scared. Understanding. An understanding between two parties. So in 1901, a dual entente, or a dual understanding between Britain and France, was formed. So that understanding was formed in 1901. This was also another alliance that was formed. Now, the word entente I've just explained, it means understanding. Later, in 1904, Russia joined the dual entente and changing it now to triple entente. So it became triple entente, or triple understanding, when Russia joined. So we had Britain, we had France, and we had Russia, forming the triple entente. So by 1904, we had two opposing alliances in Europe. So we had the triple alliance, which consisted of Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary. And then we had triple entente, which consisted of Britain, France, and Russia. You can see they are making weapons, and now they have formed alliances that I have explained step by step how each alliance, from dual alliance, why were they formed? It was a counter alliance against a particular European nation to defend themselves against attack from either of the rivals. I hope you've understood the alliance system, or how the alliance system was formed. Now, actually, the formation of these opposing and parallel alliances threatened world peace. Why were they forming alliances? You can ask your questions. It was a rivalry alliance opposing. It would threaten the world peace because they were preparing for a war. So that is how we qualify the alliance system as a long-term course, because it took a period of from 1879 to 1904 just coming up with the alliances. So that is why it qualifies to be a long-term course of World War I. Good. Now, nationalism. Nationalism. You learned this in Form 3. Nationalism, in which a particular nation develop a sense of independence. They want to rule themselves. So various nations in Europe started breaking from the colonial bondage that they were subjected to by other influential European powers. So the quest for self-determination and rule further worsened the already bad situation. For instance, Belgium broke away from Holland. Belgium broke away from Holland in 1930. So I want to explain this also to you my dear viewers, my dear students, so that you understand how the long-term causes were growing. Good. So nationalism. Nationalism. So as I said, that nationalism is the quest for self-determination and self-rule. So various countries that were colonized by influential European powers started breaking away so that they become independent. Of course, independence is good. So Belgium broke away from Holland in 1930. It became independent. Norway delinked herself from Sweden. You can see they're breaking away. Ottoman Empire disintegrated, was dissolved into several national fragments, portions. So we had the Ottoman Empire consisted of countries, various countries like Greece, like Serbia, like Romania, and Bulgaria, among others. Now these broke away so that they became independent. You can see how nationalism was really making things worse in Europe. Then we have Greeks and the Bulgars in Macedonia also liberated themselves from the Turkish rule. And finally, the Slavic people, or the Slavic people, depending on Slavic. The Slavic people also, for instance, we had the Czech Republic, e.g., we have Czech, we have Poles, we have Slovenes, we also have Croats, the Croats. Also, they were unhappy with the way they were being ruled by the Austria-Hungary. And so they also decided to break away by becoming independent and also gaining self-rule. This also threatened world peace because the colonizer was not happy when the countries that they colonized were breaking away. And this also was a problem because it further made the strings to be pulled apart. Let me finally look at the last long-term cause, that is the Balkans War. The Balkans War. The Balkan Wars, the Balkans War. So the Balkans War was between 1912 to 1913. The Balkans War. So in 1912, Greece, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Montenegro attacked Turkey. These were colonized countries. Now they're broken away. Now they started fighting back. They attacked Turkey, accusing the Young Turks movement to be persecuting Christians in Macedonia. That was the first Balkan War. The Greeks, the Serbians, and the Bulgarians, and the Montenegro attacking Turkey, accusing the Young Turks movement to be persecuting Christians. That was the first Balkan War. Now, to stop the conflict from growing, an agreement or a treaty was signed in 1913 that was called Treaty of London. Treaty of London in 1913. Treaty of London 1913, which led to the end, or that resolved the first Balkan War. However, in 1913, Bulgaria and Serbia Spelling Serbia, Serbia, and Bulgaria. Also, ignited the Second Balkan War over the ownership of Macedonia. So the question of who is owning Macedonia resulted into the rise of the Second Balkan War, which was which was spearheaded by the Serbians and the Bulgarians. So Serbia looked for assistance from the Greece and Turkey, leading to Greece and Serbia acquisition of Macedonia. Then Romania also acquired a place known as Dobruja. They acquired Dobruja, which was a valuable territory for the Bulgarians. And this Second Balkan War was also resolved. And how was it resolved? It was resolved by the Treaty of Bucharest the same year. The Bucharest Treaty. The Bucharest Treaty. Bucharest Treaty. Let me write the correct spelling. Bucharest. Treaty of 1913. So, I will ask you a question. Name two treaties that led to that resolved the Balkan Wars. We had two Balkan Wars. So how are they resolved? They were resolved by two treaties. The Treaty of London, the same year, 1913, and the Bucharest Treaty of 1913 that resulted into the resolving the Balkan conflicts. Now that is those are the long-term causes of World War I.
This is a city on a hill, a school with God's glory. Education is light, my Kadzonzo the only bright, shining star in the nation. Highly favored, my Kadzonzo, highly favored by God, so we are.